Namaste, Namaskaram. Welcome to episode 6 of my Bansuri Innovations series. This is the very first carbon fiber flute I made some 7 years ago. It is tuned to D5 sharp, D sharp, and meant for the traditional Carnatic fingering. It has a bamboo lip plate. The other thing you will readily notice is that it has rings over the tone holes. Why did I choose to have rings around the tone holes even in my very first carbon fiber flute? This evolved from studying thick versus thin bamboo Bansuris, and I found that each had its unique advantages. I found that thick bamboo flutes like this one, which comes from the bamboo comes from the woods of Kerala, produced notes that were richer and deeper, especially in the lower octave. The thinner bamboo Bansuris, like this one, for example, a typical bamboo from Assam, the notes were more airy and not as strong. To a large extent, this was due to a thicker versus thinner blowhole. But I suspected that the walls of the tone holes also had a role to play. The thinner Bansuris, on the other hand, were more responsive, and the higher octave notes were a lot more easier to play. Is it possible to combine the benefits of both? The carbon fiber tubes that I use are very thin, usually only about 1 millimeter thick, and hence substantially thinner than most Bansuris. Even this typical thin Bansuri, concert-style Bansuri, has a thickness of about 2 millimeters. The thinness itself made the carbon fiber Bansuri very responsive and very easy to play at all octaves. However, to make the notes stronger, it needs a lip plate of certain thickness. And that's why I put a lip plate here, in this case a bamboo lip plate. Otherwise, the notes will become airy and hissy. Just a short note on airiness or hissiness. Some Bansuri players like the sound to be airy. My own preference is for less airiness. It's just a personal choice, really. The tone holes also need to be made thicker to make the notes less hissy if you don't want the hissiness, and hence the introduction of the tone hole rings. I was very pleased with the results of the first carbon fiber flute. The success of the first carbon fiber flute has encouraged me to use tone hole rings in all my subsequent carbon fiber flutes and Bansuris. Let me demonstrate the effect of having a tone hole ring here. This is an alto flute head joint, and it's connected to a fairly short piece of carbon fiber tube. This tube has 2 tone holes in it, one with a ring around it, another one with no rings. And I'm going to play using both of these tone holes to show you the difference. Of course, the sound you're going to get out of the hole with the tone hole is going to be slightly higher pitch than this one, because this is closer to the head joint. But don't worry about the higher pitch. Concentrate on the quality of the tone. Now this is just the plain hole without the tone hole. I don't know if it's noticeable to you, but certainly to me, the note generated without the tone hole was definitely more airy and a little bit weaker than the one with the tone hole ring. Apart from improving the strength and tone, using a tone hole ring offers other advantages. Let us examine the construction of tone holes. In the traditional bansuri such as this one, the tone hole is made by burning or carefully drilling through the bamboo walls. Because of the curvature of the cylinder, the tone hole is not flat. It wraps around here. So when a finger closes a tone hole, the finger's flesh has to wrap around the hole to close it. The wrapping process takes a few microseconds more to close the hole. Of course, the fat at the tip of your fingers helps to close it quicker. See my episode 4 on Bansuri innovations for a more detailed discussion on this. If the fingers are at an angle to the hole, it becomes harder to wrap around the hole to close, and this takes a few more microseconds. This can become an issue in the very long bansuris, because there you have to you may have to close the holes at a particularly sharp angle. The possibility of air leaks in that case through the sides becomes greater. If the curvature is not there and you don't have to wrap around the hole to close it, closing will be immediate. So how do we address this problem? Using rings on top of the tone hole. Closing is immediate, regardless of the angle the finger is. It's the same, whatever angle. There are also other advantages. Compare again a thin bansuri with a thick one. You'll find that holding a thick bansuri is a lot more comfortable. This is because there is greater distance between the thumb and the other fingers. This makes it easier to stretch the other fingers to reach all the tone holes comfortably. Adding tone hole rings has the same effect as playing on a thicker bamboo bansuri, because you're increasing the distance from the thumb to the other fingers, and therefore stretching becomes easier. Another advantage is that it is easy to develop caps that can be used to close tone holes partially or fully. Sometimes you have to close a tone hole partially with your finger to get the komal or lower swar. Closing the tone partially not only reduces the volume but also affects the tone by dampening the vibrating tone hole. Using a cap to close a hole partially reduces the dampening effect. Also, it makes it faster to play the note in speedy phrases. It also makes it easier for beginners to play the partial whole notes, because often they don't know really how much to close. Here is an example of a cap with a hole in it, with a partial hole. So this is for partial closures, and all you need to do is to stick this cap onto the top of this. It has a rubber underneath, which makes it easier to grasp it and stick to it. So a fully covered cap can be used when the tone hole is not needed. So this cap, for example, is completely covered. For example, you may not need this particular tone hole, let's say, for a particular scale, rag that you're playing. This will free the finger to do other things. This allows the possibility of having more tone holes from which you can select which ones you want open and which closed. Here, however, you have to be careful about how much impact this has on the frequency of the note above the tone hole you're using a cap on. If the impact is very small, that you can easily compensate by blowing or tilting, then it's a possibility. and it's a strong possibility. If it makes a big difference, then it may not be possible to use caps. In the next couple of episodes, I'll show you the use of caps on the Bansuri being demonstrated. In the next episode, I'll show you the new ideas I have put into effect on the lower half of the Bansuri, where you use your right hand, that is for a right-handed player, to control the tone holes. Please do tune in to episode 7 when it's available, and please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.